Our top focus, the English disaster class continues as the defending champions suffered another embarrassing defeat as Sri Lanka comfortably defeated the champs by 8 wickets. Coming into the tournament, the England squad were of course one of the favourites to win it all. With a stacked squad and a bunch of talented all-rounders, England looked set to dominate the tournament. But a shocking loss to Afghanistan set the tone for the defending champions. Now, after losing 3 games of the first 4, this game against Sri Lankans was a must-win for the champs. But Sri Lanka seems to be the kryptonite for the English. With their 5th consecutive win against England, the Lankans have a glimmer of hope to qualify for the semi-finals. The defending champions are on the verge of being eliminated from the tournament. Now, with their next match against table toppers India, it will definitely take some performance from the champs if they really want to remain alive in the tournament. Can England pull off the impossible? Well, that's a question only time is going to tell. But for now, who can possibly answer that is my colleague Karishma, who's joining me live on the broadcast. Karishma, very good evening to you. Seems like, this is not a great story for England. What do you think is really going to transpire? Because they have to put up a phenomenal performance, which has not been happening so far, if they really want to set the tone going ahead now to qualify for the semis.
Well, yes, absolutely, Nivedhana. It has to be said that England is not playing even 1% of the way they played in 2019, or the fact that they are defending champions. You cannot make out from the performances that the England team is showing. Even against Sri Lanka today, they only managed a paltry 156, and Sri Lanka won it by a huge, huge margin of 8 wickets and many, many overs to spare. So it's just going to show how bad of a lump England is going through. And of course, you feel for Joss Butler and for the entire England team. But the fact is that nothing is going for them. Even if they're winning tosses, they're making the wrong decision. So somewhere down the line, it is all but over for England. And the next match versus England, of course, is going to be a must-win game for England. But the fact is that even if England goes on to win all of their remaining games, they cannot just be dependent on those results. They will also have to rely on other teams and how the results go in their favor in terms of what happens with other teams, and that is never a good situation to be in. But remember, they are playing India next, who are on fire. They have won all their games up until now. They're the only team this World Cup they have that has not lost a match. So of course it is going to be a very, very tough challenge for the England team, and India is going to come out all guns blazing against England as well to seal their spot for the semi-final. So it is going to be an important match. But England, one can very, very easily say, is all but done from this World Cup.
Karishma, as you pointed out, a quick follow-up question with the fact that them possibly being on the brink of the exit, something that's not happened so early at this particular stage for defending champions. At least we pick up, this has not happened in the past 20 years. Is that the case? If you could draw perspective for our viewers as well.
Well, yes, absolutely. And World Cup, over the years has been played in different formats. Sometimes it's in group stage, sometimes it's in a round robin. Like this time around, it was, of course, the round robin stage. But England, of course, being almost being on the verge of being knocked out so early has not happened. And, you talk about them match versus Sri Lanka. England has never been able to defeat Sri Lanka in the last 3 or 4 World Cups, if I'm not wrong, in a World Cup match in ODI 50 over cricket. So, of course, England not playing to their potential. It was a strong team, and everyone was talking about England before the World Cup began, that they are going to be very, very strong. And remember, all these cricketers have experience of playing in Indian conditions. They play a lot of bilateral cricket. They also play the Indian Premier League. The format is different, but the conditions are similar. The cities are somewhat similar to what they are playing in currently. So obviously all of that was going in their favor, but England completely being outplayed by each and every opponent, whether it's Sri Lanka, whether it's Afghanistan, and they will have to do a lot of introspection when they end their World Cup campaign, because it is, like I said, going to be very, very, very unlikely that they make it to the semis without being dependent or relying on the results of other teams as well.
Absolutely, Karishma. I appreciate you joining us on Top of Nine and not only telling us the latest, but also with the fact that what is essential is everyone's going to probably be doing a permutation and a combination to see if they're going to be qualifying. That, like I said, only time is going to tell. But thank you very much, Karishma. Let us get this conversation going further as I have my guest, Chandresh Narayanan, author and sports broadcaster, joining me here this evening. Chandresh, great to see you once again back to discuss everything about what you love, what we all love, sports. What do you think really went wrong as far as the campaign in the ODI World Cup is concerned?
Thanks a lot for having me again, Nivedhana. I think that the multiple factors have gone wrong for England. First of all the talk about 50-over cricket being redundant, not being exciting enough, all the talk originates from England. When you start disrespecting a format, the format comes back to bite you. That's the number one reason I think that has happened. India, we don't talk about any white ball format being redundant. All our talk is about Test cricket being redundant, and we sometimes see low points in our Test matches, but we don't care about it because they are in red ball format, and we only bother about the white ball formats. England in the last 4 years have played only about 42 ODIs before the World Cup. Their build up to this World Cup has been the most lackadaisical possible for a defending champion. 4 years ago, they were a younger squad, and 4 years on, they are an older squad. Today's playing 11 was like almost like a dad's army. They had a lot of 30 plus players, and I think that also the fact that Owen Morgan had a clear 4 year window to build a squad for the 2019 event. Josh Butler got this squad only last year because Owen Morgan was still the white ball captain till mid of last year. So he's not had much of a time. The only thing that he did right last year was win the 2022 T20 World Cup. But I think, like it happens in most of our laptops and mobile phones and every other operating system, they need to upgrade their software. Now, they used to bat a certain way. There was a certain English way of playing white ball cricket. Now, every other team, barring a few others, are following that pattern. You look at Australia, look at South Africa, the way they are batting. They have completely copied it from the English style of playing white ball cricket. England was still stuck in a time warp. And I think all the confusion with regards to Ben Stokes, him coming back into the one day team after retiring last year, again, that's a clear sign of disrespecting the format, I think, in my view, because last year he said, I'm done with the format because it's not appealing and I need to manage my body. He was brought back. Then Jason Roy was not picked when he should have been picked, or they wanted to bring in Harry Brook, who's not struck gold in this tournament. Harry Brook didn't strike gold during the IPL as well, when except for one century in the IPL this year. So multiple factors. The bowling is weaker than what it was in 2019. They had a much younger, much swifter bowling attack in 2019 with Liam Plunkett and Jofra Archer and Mark Wood. It's looking a shadow of its former self. So I think multiple factors. Overall, I think this English performance has shown once again, if you do not particularly like a format, it will show in the results on the field. It did for India, if you remember, in 2011-12 with England and Australia in Test matches. It is again showing for England in this format in this tournament.
You know, Chandesh, as you pointed out and you've analyzed it probably the perfect way for our viewers to understand, there's something that they believed would have worked in their favor and which was much talked about was the baseball technique. What do you think really happened there?
Baseball, for the approach that they have is for the Test team. For this, they already had a English way of playing white ball cricket, which was put in place since 2015 under Owen Morgan and Trevor Bayliss, the then head coach. I think, like I said, this particular one-day team has not been together for a very long time. And it is all very well to say that, we are a gun side, we are this, we are that. But, ultimately, you need to start performing as well. But they haven't played enough together. If you look at India, India also didn't play enough together, but they got together a couple of months ago and started playing one-day cricket together, starting from the Asia Cup. And England didn't do that. And they I think this format has been they've been caught napping in this format because all the talk since they won the 50-over World Cup has been that this format doesn't work, it doesn't fit, this is too long, this is too boring, and this and that. This talk doesn't come from any other part of the world except England, mostly from England and then from Australia. I think also if you see in terms of like I said, they are probably the most vulnerable side right now in when it comes to poaching from franchise cricket around the world. Most of their players who played in the 11 today, except maybe Joe Root to some extent, all the other players are on the radar of some of the
Hmm.
other T20 franchise in the world. And I think their players are also caught in between wanting to become a T20 freelancer and wanting to play for England. All these sort of off the field talk, I think, has clouded their defense of this title this time around. And they are probably, after Pakistan, West Indies, they are probably the most vulnerable side when it comes to being approached by franchises across the world. So I think they need to get their house in order. In white ball cricket, I'm pretty sure in red ball cricket, in a couple of months' time when they will be in India, there will be quite a match for India in the five-test series. But in this 50-over format, they need to get their house in
Right.
order. I'm pretty certain that they will do a good job of defending their crown next year at the T20 World Cup.
Okay, so you have ruled them out of this year. You don't believe in the permutation and combination that could possibly work for them. But one very interesting aspect that Karishma, my colleague, was earlier pointing out, which obviously everybody does know also, is with the fact that most of these players are exposed to Indian conditions. So, and we've seen some of these, even if you talk about Joss Butler or Liam Livingstone, with the way they perform in these T20 leagues in the same Indian conditions, have worked for them.
That's a good point, but I think what we seem to forget is that this tournament has shown that there is a big difference now between the T20 format and the 50-over format. And nothing explains that more than, say,
Hmm.
the performance of the Indian team, for example. Last year in the T20 World Cup, against this very English team, it seemed like India was playing an outdated form of T20 cricket, and England was way ahead in the way they demolished India in the semi-final last year. I think this particular tournament in India, if the 50-over tournament has shown that sides which do well in T20 cricket do not necessarily do well in one-day cricket as well, because that gap has widened between the two formats. You may know the conditions. A lot of sides know the conditions in England,
Hmm.
but not everybody go and do well in any format that they play over there. India has not won a test series in England since 2007. India, last time around, almost all the teams had experience of playing in England. Ultimately, England won by the barest of margins the World Cup. So I think that you can know the conditions, but sometimes the format can be a bit too different to what you've been exposed to previously in India.
All right, Chandesh, as you point that out, and before I let you go, one last question. We'll also take a look at the points table as well. They take on India, and Team India, of course, has been in phenomenal form. They're actually going to be playing on Sunday in Lucknow. So the net run rate and also the permutation and combination really comes into it. How do you really see this pan out? Is there a glimmer of hope for them at all?
See, now they just need to keep hoping, and only keep hoping and keep praying that everything goes their way. But it's too difficult for them. If you see, they are ninth on the points table, and they need to actually hope for a number of other sides to lose for them to get through to the semi-final. And I think when you get to that stage in a tournament like this, it becomes very difficult. I think then their confidence is down. They're coming off three successive losses, and that's a long losing streak in a tournament like this, where you have 9 games in 9 different locations, so to speak. I think they will find it difficult against India as well on Sunday, because the Lucknow pitch might turn a bit, and India is already looking at playing Ashwin as the third spinner. So I think all conditions considered, it's going to be difficult for England against India as well. But having said that, anything can be possible in this tournament. We've seen strange results in this tournament so far, so anything is possible. I think what they need to do is that stop giving excuses. We've already had Joe Root coming out and talking about the air quality in India, a story that you spoke about before this bulletin, and also they need to stop worrying
Right.
about what format they need to play. That's what they have got caught into. They think about the game and overall, which is a good thing, because not many do that within India as well. But at sometimes when you're in a tournament, be in the present, be in the moment, and stop worrying about the greater good of the game and start just looking at the format that you're involved in. Maybe then you will be able to perform better.
Okay, simply put, Chandresh, no looking back and no looking at the future. Be in the present and don't be caught napping. That is the message essentially for Team England. But thank you very much for taking the time out and joining us here on everything to do with how England has performed, or rather not, in the ODI World Cup 2023. We're going to leave the conversation